Good evening, race fans, and welcome to weekend number 8 of 10 of the Herd Summer Racing League series. So tonight we have a bit of a cracker if you like climbing. I don't, but lots of people do. We've got 2 full laps of the Bologna circuit, so we will be cycling for 32 kilometres. And so to start with, we've got 6 kilometers on the flats, and then we've got a 2 kilometer climb coming back down, back to the start line, do a quick switcheroo, and then another 8 kilometer ride to the top of the climb, and then back again, and we will finish at 32k. Gordon, how much would you love to do this circuit?
I would hate this circuit. I think I've maybe done the circuit twice where I've had to do 2 laps, once in a TTT, and it's quite horrible. Once is just about all right, sort of equivalent to an FTP test, but having to hit that hill a second time is going to hurt, especially when they're going for KOM times as well, not just GC. So they can't really let up. They've got to keep going. The only rest you're maybe going to get is the middle portion with the 8k leg down from the top of the hill back to the start again. So they're certainly going to be suffering the second time they get up that hill, and expecting the first climb to really split up the group. But we shall see tonight. Looking forward to it, as the C's are just about to hit off in a moment. The D's are already out on the road, and I suspect the C's might get towards catching them towards the top of that hill, but it'll be interesting to see where exactly they do catch up with them. But yeah, just about to hit off with the C's.
Yeah, so I was chatting with a couple of people earlier. In terms of the horribleness of this actual race, I think stage 7 with the 2 laps around London and then the climb up Keith Hill, in my mind, that was actually a worse circuit than this, because on here we've got actual periods for recovery, whereas in London you were basically going flat out to stay with a group, and then you're going flat out climbing up a hill. So here you've got 2 descents to get your breath back. So I actually think this isn't quite as bad as it looks on paper.
Potentially, I think London was sort of mixed depending on how your race went. Myself, I was with sort of the front group, and they did let up a wee bit. Other groups found they put full gas all the time, so it really depends how you get on. But just as we've hit off with the C's here, I'm following Derek at the moment. They have gapped them by a couple of seconds at the very start, so it'll be interesting to see if the tactics, they're pushing a high 3s, 4 watt kilo, just to get away. Whether that is a plan to get away and make some ground on the early stage before we hit the hill, we'll see how the different riders tackle it.
No, it looks like the pack's bringing them back in now. So I'm following Lisa Jones, who I'm expecting, hoping to do quite well up the hill. She's with Neil Gawley, seen Carl No Guts in there as well. Paul Lutman's in there. A Cheval. I think we've got. Who we got there? Ben Poynton as well, from the one of our time trial teams out in Australia. So we've got a good herd showing tonight in Cat C, and we've got a good bunch up front. Ed, I'm guessing that the bees are heading off in about 3 minutes' time. Who are you following tonight?
So I'll be watching Antoine Poirier. He's a pretty solid Cat B rider, but he's got some good competition there. Our weekly Max Szymanski is in the group, along with Paul Chacareau, and Toby Zuri's jumping in on this, even though it's the middle of the night for him. Good for you, Toby. And this should be a good one. The light guys are going to have an advantage when they hit the hill, and twice. Good one. And we're just got to see how this thing plays out. Antoine is 19-year-old young man, so he's got the youth and vigor going for him. And we're going to have to see how some of the older guys keep up with that young man as he takes off here. So he's, like I say, U23. It's going to be a quick race, I think, and we'll see how the mountain climbs go. That's going to be the telltale sign of who's got it and who doesn't. So I don't. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. It's certainly not one of my favourites. It's definitely not suited to my my shape, shall we say. Following Lisa here, looks like everyone is in a pretty tight group, which is, to be fair, to be expected in the first probably 6K of this ride. So we have varying levels of flat for the first 6 kilometers, and then around about 5.5 we've got a little bit of a lump, and then we've got the main climb at 6. And once you start climbing, you'll look out for a couple of landmarks. There's a couple of turns, but the main one is where you around about probably 7.5 kilometers where you hang a right toward, and then things really start to flatten out a little bit from sort of 15 to 20% down to about 7, and the 7% feel like you're actually riding on flat just because you've been doing 15 to 20 for quite so long. But here we are, all steady in groups. Gordon, how's Derek doing? Is he in this group as well?
He is in. He's kind of at the front of this group, which is probably doing a bit more work than I'd probably like him to see at the moment. He is sitting on the front, and looking at the stats so far, it looks like he's putting about the most power out of this group. So he's certainly working hard. See how the hill suits him. There's quite a few lightweight riders in this, so the hills will probably suit them, probably more than Derek, but time will tell and see. But yeah, he's sitting in the sort of front 1, 2, 3 riders, even putting his front wheel into the wind as well at a few times. So yes, maybe burning up a bit too much energy for my liking here, but I'm not quite sure how he is with the climb, but we shall see. We're approaching about 3.5 kilometers. I believe the climb starts about 6K. So yeah, I mean, this front group, 10, 12 of them, they're doing absolutely, they don't need to do any more than they are at the moment. No one's in front of them catching them. So if it was me, I'd just be sitting on the back of this group waiting for the hill, because that's where the carnage is going to start, where everyone's going to try and break, and it'll be interesting to see what sort of group they get on the way back. Obviously on the way back and in and out, there's going to be 12 kilometers of flat, so certainly worthwhile getting a good group for that. And at the moment, we'll just see how they climb up this hill. But yeah, group of about 15, looking absolutely fine. But Derek is doing a lot of work on the front here, so we'll see if he calms down, how he gets on with the hill.
All right, so Bees have left the pen. Antoine's just hanging in the pack. He was at the front a little bit. We had some guys overtake. Kevin Frudd is in the group there also. So Max, Kevin. Really, if Toby can keep up on the flats, he's the one to be contesting that hill climb. He's got a lot of power and pretty lightweight. So I think he's gonna give Antoine a run for his money. Right now, we've got 10, 12 guys sitting in maybe 15 in the main group. I guess it's almost all of us. I don't see anybody dropping off yet. So everybody's pushing, 3, some up to 4. So nobody's really hitting this thing awfully hard out front. I think they're conserving for the mountain climb. So for now, it's just one big blob rolling out at 52 kph.
Yeah, and I think that's a sensible thing to do. If you're looking at just doing the TT route up here, so just the 8 kilometer race, not normally the advice is to basically go probably 10% under FTP on the flat, and then 10% over for the climb. And it sounds like our B riders especially are being relatively sensible, knowing they've got 2 pretty big climbs. I mean, the climbs are only 10 minutes, but they are pretty torturous. So you're looking at sort of 15 to 20% the whole way up for about 10 minutes. But it's definitely sensible to conserve as much as you can on the flats. Although, having said that, the C's, the front pack of C's are definitely holding probably 3-0, and how much they're going to have left for the climb, I'm not entirely sure. Yeah. Have they gone off too hard? Maybe. I think my approach, I mean, granted, I'm a very low C. My approach would probably be to hold about 2.4, 2.5 on the flat and try and do 2.7, 2.8 on the climb. But yeah, we're going to see how it pans out. Gordon, have you got any insight?
Well, it'll be interesting. As I said, I think Derek's maybe pushing a bit hard. So far, he's up to about a 3.5 average, which at that sort of pace, he's actually going to get disqualified from C, so it'll be interesting. But I definitely feel he's been putting his front wheel into the wind a bit too much in this group and could have been resting up. But yeah, the front of this group is going along at sort of 3.5 probably. There's probably some canny C riders just sitting at the back of this group waiting for the hill as we're just hitting that in a few hundred metres, which I'm expecting an explosion with the lighter riders to push on. But I suppose the danger now is the riders that are already pushing over 3 watts per kilo might just increase even more and push themselves towards Cat B will be the danger. But just a massive group here at the moment. Well, we've got about a dozen riders, a couple hundred metres to the turn, and then it'll be all out up the hill as they go for the KOM, and then it'll be interesting just to see what sort of group they get for the next part, because we do have that 12k downhill and flat to return before we hit the KOM again. So, yeah, fast start I'd say for the C's, but hopefully some of them have been sitting on the back just resting up as we turn the hairpin bend up to the hill. So, and they're pushing up high 3s now, so I suspect we'll see this group pull apart, but likely a few of them will manage to group together for the final over the hill. But yeah, you can see them pushing over 4 watts, some of them. So going to spread out a lot over the next 10 minutes. You're doing well if you can get up this hill in 10 minutes, but it'll be interesting to see how they hold together. And certainly with the B riders chasing, and it looks like some of the D riders are just coming into sight, maybe about 30 seconds ahead. So they could even group up with some of them by the time they hit the top of the hill. But yeah, interesting, and time will tell.
Yeah, so looking at the C riders on Zwift Power, from what I can see, like all front group are all genuine C's, and I think all of the D's are genuine D's as well, which is obviously nice to see. Makes a nice little change. Lisa's propped up probably about she's 7th wheel at the moment, doing a great job. Got a few guys up front holding definitely high 3s, early 4s. I'm not entirely sure how long they'll be able to hold on to that. Always nice on a hill to get yourself off to a good start, and then try and settle into a gear you like, and a cadence you're comfortable with as well. I can see Lisa's holding high 80s, low 90s. I think she just settled into about 85 to 88, and yeah, she's 8th wheel at the moment. I'm not sure where Derek is. Gordon, do you want to just pick
Derek
up on that one?
is right on the front. He's pushing up this hill high, touching 4s at times. So he's doing very well, but he is in danger of maybe getting disqualified if he holds this sort of pace for the next 10 minutes. But we'll see. It might have been his plan just to push early and try and sort of break riders, see what happens, and then settle down. But yeah, I mean, the whole C group behind them, they're all pushing well over 3s, 3.5 to 4, a lot of them. So they're definitely all going for it. Whether they can all hold it for 10 minutes will be interesting. And what the plan is obviously you do need a group of riders for the flat section afterwards, but good opportunity to drop riders here as well. But he maybe knows that as he's not a lighter rider, he does have to push on and make that effort at the start to stop himself getting dropped. But he's looking very good at the moment. First place in the season, no danger of anyone catching at the moment, but they are right on his wheel.
Hopefully he read the description of the event and knows how the race categories are working for this one.
Yeah, I mean, he is
settled down.
Hopefully he also realizes it's more than one lap.
Yeah.
That is true, yes. He is a fairly new racer, but he has done a couple of dozen races now, and he has got most of his results. I think his highest average has probably been 3.1 on one of the time trials. So if he keeps on at this pace, he'll probably bump that up even more. He is easing up a wee bit now. It's down near watts, so probably find the hills just starting to kick in, and it'll soon start zapping the legs as we head up to the sort of hairpin chicane corner where it gets to the steepest point. I suspect we'll slow up a bit more, but he's just approaching the back of some of the D riders now. But certainly looks like he's calmed down a wee bit, around about 3 watts per kilo now, so looking good.
All right, so the B riders just started up the hill, where it's at 5.2 kilometers. So they had a slight blip in the hill there, coming downhill a little bit. Still in the same blob. Looks like we've got one guy trailing about 10 meters, trying to stay on this thing. Looks like Antoine's just hanging in the middle, and they really aren't pushing very hard. Pretty much B, mid to high 3s. And so I'm kind of waiting to see if anything exciting happens here, or if they just stick with the peloton up and over and then make a run for it on that second climb. I'm thinking that's what I'd want to do. We'll see if anybody decides they want to try a breakaway up this mountain on the first go around. Right now, it just appears that everybody's sticking together at the front of the pack, maybe 4-2, but everybody else is running 3-5 or lower even. So nothing terrible for this caliber of rider. So back to you, James.
Yeah, thanks, Ed. So just a quick catch up on Swift Power. So in terms of the leading Ds, we've got Mark Morgan, who won the race last week. He's currently at according to Swift Power, he's currently at 7.1 kilometers. And we have our leading C rider, who's currently averaging 3.3 watts per kilo at 6.9. 2, but it's 21 back, so that's already a gain of 2 minutes 40. So we could well see the leading C overtake the leading D by the end of this climb. But back to our featured riders. So Lisa's currently sat 10th wheel. She had dropped down to about 11th, but overtook the guy in 10th place not too long ago, and looks like she is probably about to get the 9th spot before too long. She is holding steady, generally around about 3 to 3.2 watts per kilo. So no danger at all of being disqualified as she just passes the 7 kilometer mark. So we're gonna head up about probably 400-500 meters up this road, and we'll do a little right-hand turn, and then things get a lot easier. So the gradient is currently 16%, which in all cyclists' minds is absolutely disgusting. Let's be fair, and it will drop down to about 7%, which is about manageable, and then flatten out towards the line. But she's doing a great job. Hopefully she's holding enough back for the second climb, and hopefully everyone knows it's a 2-lap race, because if they don't, they're in for an awfully nasty surprise. Gordon, how's Derek doing? Is he still hanging out up front?
He is. Well, he's not out front. He's in 4th at the moment, so he's been overtaken by a couple of riders, but they're only just in front. They're still pushing sort of 3 to 3.5, so they're all in sight, and they're starting to pass a few Ds as well, so it's getting a bit strung out, just trying to recognise who's who. But the sort of front 12 of the Cs are all sort of 1-2 second gaps between them all, so I think just the hill's starting to kick in now as we go over the 13% round the corner. It's starting to obviously burn on the legs. Most people are probably used to doing this as a 1 lap, as you suggested, which is very much like an FTP test, so if you have been treating it like that, it's going to hurt when you come around for the second lap. But just to say that, he's dropped to 5th place, but he's still pushing out 3.5 watts. So the C group are pushing up this hill. So it'll be interesting to see what they've got left, because certainly going to be some very tired legs by the time they get to the second lap. So if they can get a rest on the flat part on the way back, because they're going to have this hill again, which I'm sure they'll all be. Can't be waiting to do that.
Yeah, Lisa's picked up a couple of spots. She's now up into 9th. She's only 5 seconds behind S. Henry, who I think is Scott, in front, who's in 8th spot. She's got a guy just behind her that's keeping her company for sure. Ed, what's going on with the bees?
Well, they're stretched out pretty good here. It looks like Kevin Frudd's about 9 or 10 seconds out in front of Antoine right now. Antoine's sitting in 8th place. We're passing some C and D riders up. This dropped to 7%. It was up about 12. You can really see the difference in rider technique. A lot of these guys are up out of the saddle, so they're grinding pretty good under, I think, 70 RPMs, and others are. It's noticeable that they are spinners, and they're just sitting in the saddle, and their legs are rapidly turning the crank here. So just different techniques on what works for each individual. Right now, Antoine's doing about 60 RPM. Heart rate's only 127, pushing 330 watts, 4.2 to 4.4. So he's not really working his heart very much. I'm expecting a young man this age probably get up in the 190 range when he's really pushing hard. So we'll see how it goes. Again, he's sitting in 8th place. Pretty good gap out front. Like I said, Kevin Fred, I believe, is a good 9 seconds out from Antoine, and currently 6 seconds in front of the number 2 racer. So big grunt, 15-16% right now. Everybody's pushing hard, mid 4s, 4, 5. It's a big hill. It's a big hill, and so we'll see how it pans out as they come up over the top. But right now they're at 7 kilometers in, so it may be halfway up this thing, not even somewhere in there. Let's see, where's the? I think the top is somewhere around 8. It looks like, so maybe another kilometer.
Yeah, the banner is bang on 8 kilometers, and Lisa is about 200 meters away from finish of the hill, and she's doing a great job. Sat in 11th at the moment, but right next to position 10 and 9. She might struggle on the downhill, but then she's got a really good opportunity to push on the second climb before we go downhill the second time and then back to the finish. But 7.9k, 100 meters to go. Gordon, has Derek hit the banner yet?
He is literally just turned around past the banner, so he's on his way back down. Fortunately, he's in 5th place, and the sort of front 4 Sea Riders gapped him a wee bit at the top of that hill. So there's it's looking like maybe a 10-15 second gap to in front of them. It's hard to tell with the riders coming up as well with the times, but he has been gapped, so he is on his all alone at the moment. So it's the question whether he tries to catch them, which I think will be quite hard on the downhill. Certainly once a group, or he does have some more Sea Riders behind him, but they are sort of 15-20 seconds. So it could be a case, but he is doing sort of half sprints down this hill as he goes in Aero Tuck now, so getting a bit of a rest. But he's all alone at the moment, and I suspect just as we're approaching the 20-minute power limit, he might have done Cat B power, so it might all be for nothing if he gets disqualified from this. But at the moment, he's looking good. He's on his own, but it's whether he can find any riders to draft along. He is closing that gap, though, to some of them, but it's probably a bit too far to catch them before the flat, so he might be better to sit up and wait for the riders behind. But yeah, flying down the hill now, watching everyone coming up. He's all alone, which is probably not ideal.
Yeah, Lisa's actually hanging on to people pretty well. She's in 10th spot out of 41, so doing a great job. And she's definitely having to work hard down the hill, whereas some of the bigger guys, or as we'd like to say, normal-sized men, might be like aero tucking and conserving as much as they possibly can. Lisa's having to push fairly hard on it. She's just gone into aero tuck, so she's trying to hang on to the guy just in front of her, and she is doing quite nicely. So at 9.5 kilometers now, just losing touch of guy in front, but not by much. Ed, how the bees coming on? Are they near the top?
They are just about there, about 300 meters to go. Antoine's still in 8th position. His 20-minute right now is sitting at 4.3, so he's kind of flirting with that 95%, kicking him up into the A-Cat. So we'll see how that goes. Kevin Fred still at the front by a good 10 seconds. 4.2 was his average. So the rest of them look like they're still well within that range. I see Marcelo Alvarez, who's an A rider. He's been pushing 5 watts a kilo for his 20 minutes, so he'll probably get knocked out of this competition. But he's further down the list. Antoine just went into 7th position. He is in front of Paul Shuckero and Max Szymanski. And pushing hard, I see passing a number of C riders, so still holding 7th position. And he's just coming up to the banner. He's just coming around the corner. We're still at about 4% in grade, so it's kind of topping out. And we'll be starting the downhill on this thing. And I don't know whether they'll be able to pick up any time. on the rest, I know those lead riders are long gone. So we'll see how this plays out. So they're just now hanging the U-turn and heading back down the hill, and the speeds are picking up. Back to you, James.
Yeah, so Lisa's on probably least favourite part of the course, the flat bit. She's got Ole Kobalecki just behind her at 3 seconds, and John Richardson a second behind that. So I think they will probably group up and help each other along. The nearest C to Lisa is Neil Gawley, who's 23 seconds in front. So she's probably not going to see him on the flat section, but may well do when we get to the second climb. Clear roads in front. A little bit of a gap behind. See if John and Ole can catch up. But in the meantime, back to Gordon.
Yeah, so Derek's a bit of no man's land here at the moment. He's hit the bottom of the flat. He's at about 12.5k, but that front group of sort of 3 or 4 C riders are now got a 30-second plus gap on them. I don't see him getting near that at the moment, but he is just cruising along at sort of high twos, sort of nice C pace. But even looking behind him, it's quite spread out. There's riders at 13, 18, 40, 52 seconds, so not even a big chase group behind him. So it might be a lonely sort of next 10k till he hits that hill again, which I'm sort of in two minds what exactly you should do here, whether you rest up and get ready for another attack at the next KOM on prime on the flat, or try and push on and stay away from the riders behind in GC. But there's quite a group behind, so the danger is if you wait for them, they might pass you as well. But he's doing fine where he is. He looks like he's 4th on the road and possibly 2nd on Zwift Power. We're a couple of riders ahead, not on Zwift Power. So he's doing fine at the moment. His average dropped down to 3.2, so it'll be interesting to see what it was when he went over the KOM, whether he will still be within category limits. But time will tell and see. But at the moment, he's a bit of no man's land, completely alone on this road, just catching up. But it looks like Mark Morgan, probably the first E-rider, is maybe 30 seconds ahead. So you might find that he gives a bit of a draft from him. Mark is a strong D-rider, so might give a bit of help back for the flat. Otherwise, it's going to be a lonely ride to the bottom of the KOM. But yeah, how the bees looking there, Ed?
Antoine's still in 7th place, heading down the hill. He and C. Combs are holding it together. Tracy Allred, a C rider, has jumped in on their group to try and take advantage of the draft. She's one of the herd female riders and is probably of lighter stature, so trying to take advantage of some draft going down the hill. They just hit the flat. It looks like Antoine's about 50 seconds behind Kevin, who's still in the lead at this time. They're pushing only about 3.4 watts per kilo, so nothing huge at this point. Just kind of hanging in there. Looks like 22 seconds behind the next B rider, so we've got a couple of them here together, but nobody's really pushing hard to make any advances on the next group that looks like there's 3 or 4 that are sitting about 25 seconds out, which is a substantial distance, as you guys know. So we're down into the flat, heading back towards the beginning, so we can hang another U-turn and do this all over again. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. So Lisa's happily hanging where she is. She's got a little bit of company from a Jay Burns, and the nearest riders to them. We've actually got a Ben Knopfling about 2 seconds behind. So obviously Ben's been a frequent participant in our streams, but he's also recovering from an operation. So Ben, we hope you recover well. But just one thing I'd like to bring up is Lisa's actually one of our captains from our ladies team time trial teams. She leads out the herd of flamingos every Thursday, and we've also got the herd of unicorns and the herd of lemurs as well. But Lisa is definitely flying the flag for our ladies TTT teams tonight, and she's doing a great job. And she's with she's with Ben. We've got Dennis Wade with her as well, and Jay Burns, and they've got a nice little group going on as we progress towards the end of the flat section. And then we will do a little U-turn and then do it all over again, because why wouldn't you want to climb up a 15% hill twice? Gordon, how's things going up towards the front?
It's pretty much the same at the moment. He's just caught up with Mark Morgan, the front sort of D rider. Looks like Mark's managed to jump on his wheel, getting a bit of draft off Derek. So it's good tactics from Mark, but it's no help probably for Derek at the moment. That gap front sees now over a minute, so I'm certainly not going to get near to them. Looking back the way, I think it's Paul Lutman, but it's still about 40 seconds. So I think he's going to be left with riding the rest of this flat part. Certainly, I was on his own, and then just see how much he's got left to attack the hill. He's just approaching 15.3, so nearly at the turnaround. We'll probably see the front C riders coming back in just a moment. But riding completely alone, although he does have Mark on his wheel, which I think Mark's doing the terrific tactic there, just using Derek's draft to help him round as well. So that'll help Mark. No help at all for Derek, though. But it's looking interesting, but completely alone at the moment. But on Zwift Power, he is still shown in second place. So only that one rider in the group ahead is actually needs to worry about. Ignore the rest. But just heading along, the pace has certainly dropped now. He's under 3 sometimes. Pushing still up to 3.5 occasionally, but pace has dropped, and I think certainly by the time they hit the second climb, it's going to drop even more. And just as we see, I think that's probably the first rider coming back the way, so they'll start seeing him come another way, and they'll probably get a bit of the idea of the gaps themselves if they've not realised them already. And how far as we're just approaching, there's probably another couple of D riders potentially in front of them. 5-second gap, but fortunately they won't be much help, these D riders. They're just going a wee bit slow to offer any draft to Derek, but all on at the moment. Hopefully maybe some C riders catch up with him, but I don't think they will on the flat section.
Ed, what's going on with Bees? How's Antoine getting on?
Antoine's sitting in 6th place in the race. As far as Zwift Power goes, he's bantering around with 3rd and 4th place with Mr. Dog. Looks like we're passing some C and D riders. He's still 14 seconds behind Garth Gorley, or Gurley. I don't know if they're related to our C-Cat rider or not, but who's in 2nd place. And G. Natero also out there in the Bs, but not on Zwift Power. So he's still 11 seconds behind the group in front of him, but he is making up some time. He's pushing 3.8 right now, 3.9. He and Mr. Dog working together. The next set of people are only B riders are only pushing about 2.5 to 3. So I'm not sure what's going on there, but they are making up a little bit of time here. So if they can pull in that 10 seconds, they'll be a group of 4 or 5 as opposed to just the 2 of them, which does make this a lot more difficult. We're still in the flats. We're coming up on 15 kilometers right now. We should be getting into the main part of the beginning of this race circuit and flipping around shortly. But as it stands, Antoine and Mr. Dog are just riding here. Antoine's doing the right thing. He's letting Mr. Dog pull 4 watts, and he's staying in the draft. So we're going to see if he decides to do anything on this second lap. Back to you, James.
Thanks, Ed. I'm very impressed at your restraint that you haven't woofed once. But back to the C's. Lisa's just gone under the start banner. They've just taken the U-turn, and they are going to go under the start banner again. Lisa probably quite sensibly, given her weight, is making the best use of the truck power up to improve her draft capabilities. So she's hanging with some of our good friends, Dennis, Ben, and we've also got Jay Burns still there as well. But I think we're going to see some B riders before too long. But anyhow, Lisa has 6 kilometers until she reaches the climb, which is let's be fair, Lisa loves the climb. Frequent outdash rider, and she's always very, very excited whenever I put on a climbing race. So she's said how happy she is to be doing this one. But just in front of her, we have someone on a time trial bike. And this is one of the things that people always talk about on this route. What is the best bike to have? So, I think is it Ben? Yep, I think it's Ben on the time trial bike. Because you have a 6 kilometer flat dash. Often people like to take the TT bike. And there's always a lot of chatter about what is the best bike to take on this course. Personally, I'll always take my fastest road bike just because on this route, with a 16 kilometer lap, you'll have you've got your 6K before the climb, then you've got 2 kilometers climbing, then 2 kilometers descent, and then another 6 kilometers on flat. So I would personally always choose a road bike. Gordon and Ed, I'm not sure what your opinions on this are, but I don't think a TT bike's the right way to go.
No, I don't think so. I think if you're maybe doing an individual T in this course, there's an argument for it. The problem with a mass start race like this, you are losing the draft, which makes quite a difference if you're on a TT bike. So I think the only way I could see a TT bike working on a course like this is potentially if you get completely dropped on the hill, maybe, and you're all alone. Potentially likes of Derek here, where he's been riding the whole of the flat section on his own. If he switched to a TT bike, he might have managed to catch up some time. But if you've got anyone around you to draft, then I don't see any value of swapping. But it really depends on the race situation. But you've got to account for the bike swap probably to take around 15 seconds per swap. So there's a lot of time to catch up.
That's a big one. I'd probably jump on the Tarmac Pro or the Amonda, especially with my weight and just so I can help me on the climbs, and then after that, just hope you're with a group that you can stay in a draft on. Maybe the 404, 202 wheels. I've got the 3.4s. I don't know if I'd throw on a TT bike on this.
Certainly not.
Unless it's just a flat out individual time trial or something, I don't think I'd pull a TT bike out.
I think I didn't see how Ben was at the top of the hill unless he got distance from the group in front. Then there's maybe an argument for it, because we've seen it with Derek here. He was maybe only 5 seconds from that group over the top of the hill, but that gap's now a minute 40. So if you are going to be left all alone for the 12 or 14k of flat in the middle, it might make some sense. Because
I think Ben was just actually mid ride. Chatted on our YouTube channel. He was just saying that he wasn't actually expecting groups to form on the flats. So he was just expecting it to be fairly gappy throughout the race, and he thought that the TT would be best for that, which would make sense. And generally on routes like this where there is such a severe hill, you wouldn't necessarily expect to see groups such as this on the flat. I think these four have grouped together by accident more than intention, and I think Ben will be pushing hard as much as he can up the hill, and we'll see how it pans out.
Yeah, certainly Derek back here. Looks like the pace is certainly dropping off now as the legs are beginning to tire down, certainly under 3 watts per kilo most of the time, but completely all alone, which there's quite a group behind, but they are a minute back. It's like half a dozen C riders now grouped up, possibly even some Ds as well, but that group in front, as I said, a minute 40 ahead, so I think they're long gone. I don't think there's much chance it's going to catch them on the climb, but without knowing exactly what the KOM times are like, as you said, it starts from the very beginning of this route, so it'll be interesting. It's not a case that you can just wait for the hill and then try and hammer it out. You have to keep going all the time. But Derek's all alone at the moment. See how close that group behind catch him before the hill. Sitting at a minute, but there is quite a number of them, so that time will come down. Probably still got another 4k potentially to the bottom of the hill.
What's going on with these, Ed?
Yeah, so we've got a group of four Bs all sitting here with Antoine and Fist. So technically, everybody is almost right here. We've got one C. We've got Ben Poynton in the group, just trying to hang with it and see how much of the draft he can take advantage of. It looks like we've got, as far as whip power goes, we've got the second, third, and fourth place riders in this group. The first place rider, Kevin Frudd, is a good 1 minute in front of these guys. He's almost a minute in front of everyone, and just pulling like a locomotive. So I don't think there's a lot of chance anybody's going to catch Kevin. So the race is going to be right here with these three guys, and like I said, Ben is hanging in there with them fairly well. And this should help him out as he gets pulled along through the flats here. We're at 20 kilometers out, so we still got a few kilometers before we hit the second climb. So everybody's just kind of taking turns up front and pulling out, and nothing exciting really going on here. Just a nice pace line with everyone just trying to conserve, I'm sure, for that last climb. If it was me and I was worth a dang riding and a little bit thinner, that's where you really need to hit it, is conserve here, and when you hit that mountain, try and get a gap, because as soon as you go over the top of the hill, you can really scream down the other side, and it's really difficult to catch up. Again, Kevin Frudd at plus 50 seconds right now, so doing really well. And these guys we're doing about 39, kilometers per hour, just 25 miles an hour is all they're doing here. So not really pushing hard. They know that they've got their group. The next set of people is a good 15, 16 seconds, and then Kevin Frudd at 50 seconds. So they'll probably just kind of stick together and battle it out to see who takes second, third, and fourth. All right.
Yeah, so coming back to Lisa, she's now got a really big group with her. So we've got Lisa, got Scott Henry, we've got Jay Hunt, we've got Dennis Wade, Paul Lutman's there as well. I think I also saw Mark Morgan in there as well. But we're looking at a group of probably about 8 riders, maybe as many as 10. Obviously, that's all going to change as soon as we hit the hill. But Lisa's definitely got lots of drafting potential to hang in this group as well. So she's doing a great job. Heart rates in the 170s are definitely seeing it as high as 180, 185. So she's doing okay. So it's all very exciting. Group of 8 to 10, and we will see what happens when we hit the hill. Gordon.
Yeah, so Derek's just hit the hill, but just talking about that group that you say Lisa's in with 8 or 10 of them, the gap was about a minute 5, minute 10, but probably in the last kilometre or two, it's dropped to 40 seconds or even below. So they certainly took a lot of time out of him as they grouped up. But we start to hit the hill, they've probably got a 30-second gap, but if that gap remains at around 30 seconds, it'll be interesting on the leg back. If that chase group behind do hold it together, they'll be very close to Derek. Or potentially some of them might even catch him on this hill. We're just unsure. Second time up this hill, I'm sure some of the legs will be hurting by now, so I'm sure we'll see splits again. It's just a case whether Derek can get over this hill with riders, or whether he wants to sit up a wee bit and try and get a group after doing the last 12k all alone. It might be the sensible thing just to have a bit of a rest and find a group for I think it's believe about 8k all the way back to the start. So he's doing well. He's pushing up the hill again. He's picked up the pace again around 3 to 3.5 watts. So looking like the gap's maybe about 15 seconds on this hill, but it's hard to judge on a hill. It'll always go out when it flattens again, but flat you're probably looking at somewhere between 30 and 40 seconds. But I can also see that group behind us chasing as well, so it's certainly going to be very close to wherever they catch him at the moment, and potentially even some of the B riders are starting to come into focus, so whether they'll make an effect for the flat part as well. We'll be very close at the top of this hill, I would have thought. You might find some of the C's start grabbing onto the B's and could make a very fast chase group back on the flat. Yeah, how is the chase group doing? How are they doing on the hill? Have they started to split up, or are they all holding together?
No, it looks pretty steady at the moment. So we're all hanging together. Lisa's holding a steady pace of 3-1-3-2. And there's not that much in the way of splitting, although she's just starting to get trailed a little bit. But no, she's just pulled back again. Ed, how's Antoine doing in
In
terms
V-Land.
of yeah.
So Antoine is currently in third. So they've split up a bit between the four of them. They dropped G. Gourley and one other rider, and currently Antoine is out in front of Mr. Dog by 1 second. They've been battling it out. Antoine's pushing 4.4, Mr. Dog at 4.6, 4.7. So these two are going to be fighting it out. They're making up a little bit of time on the next B rider. This G. Natera, who's not on Zwift Power, he's 3 seconds ahead, and they are rapidly pulling up on him. And again, Kevin Frudd at 15 seconds ahead now due to the hill, but still 15 seconds on this hill is a substantial distance. So we'll see how this goes. Again, Antoine currently in third place, pulling about 3.8, 4.0. Mr. Dog at 4, and this is on a 14% grade. They're running about 10 kilometers per hour. That's 320 watts. So they're pushing hard, and looks like Mr. Dog just got ahead of Antoine. We'll see if he matches speed here. He is making a little bit of gap, so we've got hope Antoine kicks it up a little bit. They're both pushing 4.4, 4.5, 4.8, 4.7. It's a mad rush, and they just started this climb. So this could be exciting the whole way up as these two guys battle it out for second and third. Back to you, James.
Yeah, Lisa's doing okay. She's still sat in 11th spot. She's got Neil just in front of her, Scott Henry, Jay Burns, Jay Hunt. Kevin's about 4 seconds up the road, but obviously he's holding about between sort of 3.6 and 4.2. And there's a Portuguese rider about 7-8 seconds up the road. Lisa's doing a great job. She's pushing hard, and looking at her heart rate, she's at 170. We've definitely seen it in the 180s. So I think she's got a little bit of power to spare. But I think she's trying to find a gear that's comfortable and cadence is comfortable. And she's just pushed up into 8th spot. She's just about to move into 9th. So we'll see how she does on the second half of the climb. Gordon.
Yep, Derek's still in the climb, still going well. The same sort of power, 3.5 or even 4.5 as we turn that corner. He's probably maybe actually grown the gap slightly over the chase group with Lisa, and it's going, well, varying from sort of 12 to 20 odd seconds. So it's starting to spread out, but the group ahead looks like they're 28 seconds, which probably expand out further once they hit the top. But if I was him at the moment, I'd maybe sit up a wee bit, although you are still hitting for the prime here, so he can't really sit up. He has to keep pushing to the top of this hill, but then potential on the return journey, I think I'd maybe look for that group behind, because I believe they'll probably catch him by then, but time will tell. Depends on what gap he makes over this group. As you can see, maybe an A rider coming up behind him, E11 Sean, I think. So that's the front A rider, though. Obviously, there'll be no help on this hill. Not going to get much draft off anyone. I suspect we'll probably see Kevin Frudd must be fairly near behind that as well. So, but actually, he's right behind as he's passing Derek any second now. So, unfortunately, there won't be much help. If they could have gotten those wheels over the top, that might have been enough to keep him away from the other C riders. Looking further back, I don't know if the likes of Dan Pedrosa, the next A rider, which a bit further back, whether he managed to catch the timing's right, he might be able to get on his wheel and push along with him. But his best plan is either sit up and wait for those C riders or see what any Bs or As might pass and give him a bit of a help on the way back, because otherwise I think that chase group will be chasing him down strongly on the way. But yeah, he's pushing up. Still looks like he's out the saddle now, 60 odd RPM, pushing over 3 watts a kilo. So he is managing to keep that gap to the chase group behind. Yeah, how's the chase group looking? Are they still solid together, or are they?
Yeah, well, It's sort of coming and going, really. Lisa's just passed the 7 kilometre banner, so not too long until, well, another sort of like 500-600 meters before it settles down a little bit. But she's holding, what I was going to say, she's holding very steady power, but just saw her punching out 260 watts. She's definitely having a go for it. She was at the front of a group. And then got overtaken by Scott Hamer and Neil Gawley. And she's now putting down a little bit more power. Heart rate starting to creep a little bit closer to 180. She was spinning most of the way up the first half of the hill at what appeared to be, I don't want to say comfortable, but a slightly uncomfortable level. And she's definitely picked it up a little bit for the second half of the hill. Cadences are still hanging around, generally between 85 and 90. I've seen her pushing at 95. All depends on the gearing. Gradient's 30%. Let's check back in a couple of minutes. Ed, what's going on behind?
Well, currently Antoine is in 6th place. He's gotten passed by a few riders. In Gurley caught up, but then it looks like he's right on. Antoine's right on his wheel now. I'm sorry, he's passing near Gurley. He was passed by G. Gurley, who's 6 seconds ahead, as well as Mr. Dog has pulled quite a ways ahead. Kevin Flood, as we know, is currently in 2nd position overall, at about 2 minutes behind David Haley. And he, with Eric Levisol, the A rider, who we saw fly past at between 5.5 and 6 watts per kilo a few minutes ago, has rapidly come up on in 3rd place, who I believe will probably pass Kevin shortly. Antoine is still pushing well over 4 watts per kilo, and has just passed Lisa Jones, who's riding there with Neil Gurley and Scott Henry, Ben Nothling, all in that group there. Still pushing hard at well over 4 watts per kilo. Trying to make up some time. The next position and B is 9 seconds ahead. We're currently at 24 kilometers, so it looks like there's probably just shy of a kilometer to go before we hit the summit of this climb, and they can head back down the hill and into town. So it looks like Antoine is suffering a bit, as I'm sure they all are. And this has been a big push for him and all the riders. Back to you, James.
Yeah, Ed, I don't think we've even got a kilometre. I think we're down to the last 500 metres of this climb. So we're just hitting the 7% section where everyone just goes, ah. So you've got your little 7% section, and we are probably about 400 meters away from the line. Lisa is battling to hold off Neil Gawley and Ben Nothling. Ben Nothling is 2 seconds back. Neil Gawley is literally 3 meters behind her wheel. She is doing what she can, but she's probably going to struggle on the downhill. But having said that, fantastic climb from Lisa. She was holding off all the guys behind her and gapped a couple. So Jay Burns is now 7 seconds back. Dennis Wade is now 23 seconds back as well. So great job from Lisa. Quick switch over to Gordon. What's going on up front?
Yeah, so Derek, because he's probably only maybe 100 or 200 metres from the top, as a couple of B riders just passed them. If you can manage to get on those wheels, that would be a good opportunity to try and extend that gap, because there is still the C riders chasing. Looks like Paul Lippman is the nearest behind at 10 seconds, but a couple of B riders have passed. He's not managed to get on those wheels, but there is one more. Looks like G Gurley right behind him, so hopefully he can grab that wheel. Just looking at the board, we have the times up for the first lap. It looks like came 5th overall on the first climb, just over 19 minutes. So I suspect a good time on the flat as well. That'll put him probably 5th on the board, but I suspect some of them aren't on Zwift Power. So probably a top 3 prime for the first lap. He certainly didn't beat at that time. He's still showing as a 19:03, but just going over the top, done the turn, having a bit of a sprint just to see if he can get onto that B's wheel. It might make a difference, but I'm not quite sure. There's a sort of 10-metre gap as we're just approaching the downhill bit now. just waiting to see whether he's going to sprint or just sit up and have a rest for the aero tuck. And then it will just be time will tell whether that chase group forms up behind him and manages to close him down. But looks like he's taking it easy down this hill, under 2 watts. Having a bit more of a go now. If you can just get on this B rider ahead, he might have a chance. But no, he's gone into aero tuck at the moment, so having a rest for the downhill, and then it will be a chase to the end. Obviously, the prime's over now, so I think the main thing is just watch that chase group behind to see how close they get. He is, interesting. The B rider in front of him, G Gurley, is pedalling down the hill, so Derek's actually just aero tucked straight by him. So, interesting one on that one. Why he's not aero tucking, but past the B rider, I suspect that B rider will pass him again on the flat, and he might get a bit of a draft back. So that might be his saviour from the chase group, but we'll see. Has Lisa probably gone over the top now? How's she getting the riders?
She has, and I just wanted to quickly comment on her first lap, which was 19:41, which is anything under 20 minutes is an absolutely fantastic time. I think my best is about 21. So well done, Lisa. That's a brilliant time. And I suspect her second lap probably wasn't that far off that either. So she's doing great. She has dropped a couple of riders behind. So in terms of C's, I think Neil Gawley was about 30 metres behind and Ben Knopfling was about 50. So she's done a great job on the hill. She sat in 9th out of 41, so doing great. It's a little bit hard to see the gaps at the moment because obviously we're passing races as we go down the hill, and Zwift doesn't appear to like that very much. So we should be able to catch up on what the gaps actually are once Lisa hits the flat. But she's doing a great job so far. Ed, how's Antoine doing?
Antoine's still sitting in 6th position. He's pretty much on his own on the downhill. He's at about 2% grade right now, 27.4 kilometers. Pushing high 3s, probably just going to hang in there. There's nobody really even close. G. Gurley's 24 seconds ahead. There's no B riders within a few minutes of him behind. I did notice that Chris Conkus, a B rider, rapidly caught up with Kevin Flood. Now, at the beginning of the race, it appeared that Chris was having issues even hanging on the back, and suddenly he passed everyone. So it was a bit odd there, and absolutely no data in Zwift Power for 20-minute PB, anything. I checked his page. It's 0, like that's a brand new page. So not sure where he's going to fall into things. But he is currently trailing Kevin Flood in the first and second positions in the VCAT. Third and fourth, Mr. Dog and Garth Gorley, at least almost a minute and a half behind those two. And then with Antoine, another 45 seconds behind them. So Antoine's probably firmly in 6th position here. I don't see him able to make up the 24 seconds that he has with G. Gurley. He's going to probably just ride this one out and see how well he does on time. So back to you, James.
Yeah, so Ben Knopfling and Neil Gawley have gone past Lisa on the downhill, probably more down to gravity than anything else. I think Lisa topped out about 90 kph, whereas people my sort of weight can generally hit about 102, 104 going down the hill. And I know Ben's definitely a little bit lighter than me, but I'm not entirely sure what Neil's weight is. But they've opened up quite a bit of a lead. But Lisa's found Paul Chacro, who is a B rider, and I think he's. I hope he'll. Excuse me for saying that he's quite a low B rider and Lisa's a very high C rider. So looks like these two will hang together to the end of a ride, and I think they will probably stay ahead of Jay Burns, who's about 70 seconds behind. And behind Jay Burns, we've got Dennis Wade, who's about a minute 15 back. So I think these could be the final finishing positions, but not entirely sure. But Gordon, what's going on?
Yeah, so it's a bit of an interesting one starting to form here. Derek bombed down the hill and actually overtook one of the B riders and he's now actually got back onto his wheel of M-Dog, so there's those two going along together. Derek's actually doing some of the work on the front, but looking behind the nearest rider is Paul Lutman, which Paul Lutman looks like he's actually got the wheel of Dan Pedrosa, which is an A rider, so at the moment, Paul and Dan are stuck together, so we'll just see how that gap. There's only an 11-second gap. If Paul can stay on the wheel of Dan, then I think that's going to get very close by the end of it. Even it's dropping down to about 10 seconds now, so we might have a head-to-head battle with Paul and Derek coming up if Paul can hang on to this wheel. Certainly, Dan is still pushing out over 4 watts per kilo, giving a good chance for Paul to close that gap. Alone, he wouldn't be able to do it, but Dan's wheel has certainly helped draft him back as we see the gap close to 9 seconds. So hopefully in for a close finish. See how we get on. But Paul and Dan at the moment working against M-Dog and Derek. So time will tell. See you in 5 minutes.
Neil Gawley's actually caught up with this little group, so it must have been a big push to get back on. So it's Lisa, Paul and Neil. Jay Burns is still 18, 19 seconds back. So it could even come down to a little sprint to decide who comes 9th and 10th. But we have about 2 kilometres to go. Quickly switch back to the Bees. Ed, have they finished yet?
No. We're at 30.3 kilometers, so what do we got? Maybe 2K left. We're just coming up. Antoine's just coming up on, he's probably 10 seconds behind Paul Lutman and Pedrosa there out in front. There literally isn't another person in sight around Antoine. He is all by himself through the city streets here, pushing 3.7, 3.8, good solid B power, just trying to make a good showing here. Pretty much 6th place he's got down, and just going to finish this race out. So, like I say, 30.7 kilometers, just a tad bit farther before the end of this race, and Antoine will be done with his task. Back to you, James.
Yeah, Gordon, what distance are you at the moment?
So Derek's at 30.9. It looks like Paul maybe couldn't quite hold on to Dan's wheel, and Dan has actually passed Derek as well. But at the moment, Derek is all alone, but the gap is only 8 seconds behind back to Paul. And with Anton as well, the other featured rider, it looks like another 10 or 15 seconds back. So that could still be interesting if Anton catches up with Paul and tries to work with him a wee bit. Could be very close with Derek. But we're at 31.2 kilometres at the moment. And what did you reckon the final distance was?
Bang on 32k.
Okay, so probably only about 700 metres to go. It's probably just a bit too far with a 10-second gap at the moment.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to happen.
Just trying to visualise where we are. It seems like it should be more than 600 metres, but if it is only 600 metres, I don't see him closing it in that time. Just jump to the front of the race, see where we are.
Yeah, going back to Lisa, it's her and Neil Gawley. I think Paul Chakro is trying to make a little break, but they're all back together again. So with 1 kilometre to get 1 kilometre to go, it could be anyone's. So looking about probably another 90 seconds or so before we get to the end. But Gordon, I think Derek will probably finish a little bit before us.
Pretty close. He's at 31.8 now. I can see him trying to pick up the pace a wee bit as Paul tried to do the same, but he's not all out sprinting yet. But 31.8 looks like he's got another D rider possibly in front of him, but looks like that probably has him just stopped at 31.9. I believe that is the end, unless he's had a technical. But he is still going at the moment. Let me just try and find the rider behind. I've sort of lost him for a moment. Cut back to Lisa. How are you doing? She must be approaching the end as well.
Yeah, no, I think she's got 500 metres to go, so not too far at all. She's holding about 39, 40 kph at the moment. She's
oh my God!
Go on, Ed.
All done. He almost caught Paul. It was 2 seconds out. He was right there.
So Lisa's down to the last 300 metres. Just hitting the cobble pass for the last time. And she is at the front of her group, and she's hitting the aero She's with Paul and Neil still, holding 250, 300 watts. And we're down to the last 100 meters. We'll probably not see the finish line on this screen, but she's gone for it. Go on, Lisa. Push hard. And judging by the power, Lisa,
Yeah.
That's finished. Yeah, we don't see the banner on this one, but it's just
No.
The sad thing, there's no banner.
no,
All right, we're on Ernst now. Ernst is coming down the hill.
it's an invisible distance banner that Lisa saw. We didn't see, but we know it's there.
Yeah.
And I think Lisa probably finished second out of that group. But anyway,
So Ernst is 26 kilometers out. At 26 kilometers, so he's still got 5 kilometers to go. Oof.
I think it's probably time to thank my co-commentary team of Gordon Sloan and Ed Finney, and our racers tonight. Antoine Poirier. Gordon, say your racer's name, please.
Who was I following? Derek. Let me grab his second name. You're trying to confuse me there. Derek Armour Durner, I think. Which overall, if he didn't get disqualified, I think he'll have got a good first place and certainly did well on both the KOMs. So
Excellent.
Good ride for Derek.
And obviously, we've been following Lisa Jones, who was our first lady in Category C. And I'd like to thank also David Bates, as ever, for the fantastic pictures that we've been able to follow week in, week out. We're eternally grateful, Damon. Thank you ever so much. And thank you ever so much for everyone who's been watching tonight. And I hope you've had a good time. And we'll be back this time next week. See you later.